Welcome to the Association of Pacific Island Legislatures, 54th meeting APIO Board of Directors, half a day from the island of Guam. My name is Tom Unshuk, Sergeant at Arms of the Guam Legislature, here at Antonio R. Mpinku Legislative Session Hall. Please rise for the singing of the national anthem, the Guam Hang, by Mr. Jermaine Alerta.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Fanogita moru purita nota kontai matunanya gitoru ilugat para honra para gloria Habiba isla sen parat para honra para gloria Habiba isla sen parat utodu I tempu I pas para hita dan ginini langit na bendisyon contra piligru na fan sofuham Zeus protehi islan Guam contra piligru na fan sofuham Zeus protehi islan Guam.
Thank you, Mr. Alerta. Please remain standing for a prayer by our Reverend Dr. Albert Aguero, President, Guam Ministerial Association.
Would you please bow your heads for a moment? Our Heavenly Father, as we come before you for the 54th meeting of the Association of Pacific Islands Legislatures Board of Directors, we humbly ask that your blessings be upon each one of us. We ask that you will bless the legislative representative from the American Samoa, the Commonwealth of the Northern Marianas, the FSM states of Chuuk, Kostrai, Ponape, and Yap, the Republic of the Marshall Islands, the Republic of Palau, the Republic of Nauru, the Republic of Kiribati, the State of Hawaii, and our host island, the Territory of Guam. As representative of the island, Pacific Islands, give them wisdom as they meet regularly to consider matters in areas where regional cooperation, coordination, exchange, and assistance may help government achieve their goals through collective actions, especially those issues facing the emerging Pacific environments. Lord, we set ourselves aside to abide in prayer for your servants. I pray that you will strengthen and sustain them. Let a mantle of divine grace come upon them, just as your anointing flowed over your servant leaders in time past. I also pray that a relationship of peace and a harmonious interaction between the Pacific Islands, the elected officials, and even further for the members of our community at large. And most of all, Lord God, I pray, we thank you for the great gift of our beloved islands that we call our homes. May your favor continue to rest upon your leaders, your people, and their shores. We beseech your blessings upon all present this morning. May you continue to surround us with your grace and mercy as we tackle issues relevant to our generation. This we ask in Jesus' name. And everyone will say, amen.
Thank you, Dr. Aguero. Once again, can we ask you to please remain standing for a blessing of the day's events by our island's Pa'a Tautau Bendishon. Thank you from our Pa'a Tato Tanu. You can take your seat now. Later on during the day, you'll be asked for a group photo of all APIO delegates. And now, President of the APIO, Speaker Judith T. Wampet. Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Tom, for that. And I know many of you wanted to take some videos of it. When we complete our board meeting, we would provide all of you a CD of the proceedings of our board meeting, inclusive of the opening ceremony. So what we would do today, we're just going to briefly take a break and have our official photo shoot before we adjourn today's board meeting. Okay. Thank you. The Association of Pacific Island Legislatures 54th APIO Board of Directors meeting is called to order. I would like to ask our APIO Secretary, the Honorable Senator Chang William, to take roll call.
American Samoa, Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands,
We are here.
FSM State of Chuuk, FSM State of Koshai, FSM State of Pohnpei, FSM State of Yap,
Present.
Republic of the Marshall Islands, Republic of Palau,
Here.
State of Hawaii, Island of Guam, Republic of Nauru, Republic of Kiribati. Madam President, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. For the approval of the agenda, Mr. Secretary?
Madam President, I move that the agenda be adopted.
Second.
On that motion, no objections? So ordered. For, again, the opening remarks, please allow me then to basically welcome all of you. It is a great honor and a pleasure to welcome you this morning and to extend to every one of you a warm buenas and hafa to this opening of the Board of Directors meeting. This 3 days will be a very productive one. I do hope, however, that between now and then and the conclusion of our meeting, that all of you be able to squeeze some time to go out on your own and, of course, experience Guam's hospitality, and hopefully for the Christmas holidays that you also be able to spend some money while you're here. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we embark on this journey, please permit me this opportunity to express my deepest gratitude to my colleagues and the 32nd Guam Legislature and our staff for their support in organizing this meeting in Guam, as it was originally to be held at the FSM State of Yap. And at this time, I'd like to extend also undangklu na sejus maasi to our Yap delegates for your graciousness to reconsider and having Guam hosted to make sure that we ensure the health of all of our delegates. So with that, thank you very much. It is encouraging, of course, to see our Pacific Island leaders come together to reassert to one another and to the wider world the importance and urgency we will find necessary to enrich the quality of life for our people and restore the island beauty in all our islands. I sincerely hope that we take to heart what we will learn here and what we can take home to benefit our communities, So I ask that everyone continue to stay with us, stay in tune, and be informed. So once again, I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to join us this morning at the opening, and to everyone, thank you for coming to today's first meeting of our board meeting. So with that, then I invite, of course, our member delegates for their opening remarks and country reports, and we would go ahead and start with the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands.
Good morning, Speaker Wampat, Senator Kenneth Kendi, Senator Chan Williams, my colleagues from the APIO Island Nations, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am pleased to attend the 54th board meeting of APIO. I would like to report on the CNMI's economic status and challenges. Our tourism numbers have steadily increased since last year. Thanks to Asiana Airlines, Delta Airlines, Korean Airlines, and the new Dynamic Airlines, we have more flights bringing visitors to the CNMI. However, the CNMI needs the airline industry to increase their flights to the CNMI in order to bring in more visitors. The key to the CNMI's economic recovery is to boost the tourism industry. Economic activities in the CNMI have been stagnant or slow at best. One very important factor is the immigration status of our guest workers. As you may know, the CNMI is transitioning into the federal immigration system, and the employment of our guest workers can only be guaranteed until December 2014, when the transition period ends. The CNMI has requested an extension of the transition period for another 5 years. However, the U.S. Secretaries of Labor and Homeland Security have yet to make that decision. In the meantime, many businesses are holding back, waiting for the final word. The imposition of federal immigration has further stifled our economic growth. There are many new investors that desire to do business in the CNMI. However, because of the uncertainties of their immigration status as investors and their ability to have the necessary workforce to conduct business, many new investors are delaying any progress or expansion of their CNMI investments. We need to stabilize federal immigration in the CNMI to grow our economy. Like our sister island nations, the CNMI continues to struggle with the exorbitant cost of fossil fuel. The CNMI's electric rate is currently at 34 cents per kilowatt hour, which is taking a toll on the people as well as the businesses in the CNMI. Our public utility is slowly moving towards integrating alternative energy resources to our power grid. I hope to continue working with all of you to come up with solutions or ways to reduce the current fossil fuel in the Pacific region. The CNMI is looking at different ways to generate revenue, including establishing an electric gaming industry. And I may also add that the CNMI and Guam are working together in trying to bring in activity from the cruise line. Thank you to the Guam delegates, which would authorize the use of electronic machines with different types of games to be played by our visitors. These machines are intended to be used by our visitors similar to the electronic machines used at Macau and throughout Asia. While the CNMI continues to struggle with economic growth, we've been spared by natural disasters and turmoil, unlike some of our sister islands and nations. We are deeply sorry for the loss and damage recently suffered by our brothers and sisters in Palau and the Philippines. The CNMI stands ready to assist in any way possible. The CNMI further pledges its support and cooperation with APIO and its members to further provide better life for our people. Thank you.
Thank you, SNMI, FSM State of Chuk.
Thank you, Madam President. Honorable Governor Eddie Calvo, Madam President of APIL, Pt.1 PET, members of the Guam Legislature, all Guam dignitaries and officials, Honorable APIL delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I bring you a warm random greeting from the people of Chuk and the state of Chuk. Good morning. Many of us have visited Guam more than a few years, a few times, and almost consider Guam our second home. But for some of us, this may be the first or second time to Guam, so I urge you to take this opportunity to enjoy the natural beauty and to take in the social beauty of this island. You may take home with you some valuable experiences. We truly appreciate the warm welcome and many hospitalities extended to us from the moment we arrived last night. Thank you, Madam President and the Guam Legislature for hosting this APIL board meeting. As you know, it was scheduled to be held in Yap, but events there made that impossible. Where we should have been led by the beautiful topless young dancers. I'm just joking. I represent the state of Chuk along with my colleague here. This is Floor Leader Mario Sacabido of the House of Representatives. There are no other members with us, signifying the bleak financial struggles of our state. Although we are making progress, recent challenges have threatened crisis. People have become negative and often blame our national government, saying they don't care about Chuk. Our major infrastructure projects have drifted along as though they have no urgency. Other states are moving ahead while over half of the FSM population who live in Chuk seems to be forgotten. I'm sorry about this. Chuk comprises more than half of the national economy and a large part of its territory, and any setback in Chuk will have major impacts on the nation. So we have more challenges than just a road. Our national telecommunication system remains unaffordable for much of our people, and that problem extends to other states. So I'm sorry for my sister states for misrepresenting this situation. We have an opportunity to install fiber optic cables throughout our state, our nation, but the FSM Telecom is resisting this idea. I guess for monetary purpose, lack of money. Each state needs to speak up on these matters to let our national government know what the people want. Of course, the national government could attend this meeting and hear for themselves our outcries. I believe we must face the important issues and work together to solve our common problems. Our people want transparency, so this is no time for backroom negotiations. Let's address the realities of our island communities now in this assembly. Let us set aside our petty bickering and help each other to lessen the impacts of the political and economic challenges that face us back home. Political and economic threats arise from our own shores, but they also come from the global economy. We cannot change what the rest of the world causes, but we can adjust our own actions to prevent adding more calamity, and we can work together to dampen the effects of global recessions on our communities. We also face physical threats. Climate change brings rising sea levels and severe weather, and those are especially damaging to our communities in the Pacific Rim. For example, the Majuro Declaration, quote unquote. The damage from climate change is a result of unwise decisions by people from afar. I hear that they are talking about changing their ways and using less fossil fuel. We cannot assume that good changes will come. Other problems arise from decisions made within our boundaries. Poor fiscal management nearly caused the collapse of our economy in Chuuk. We have learned lessons from that. Our bright young people are leaving our islands for better opportunities, a brain drain that leaves us short of some talents. The reasons for leaving our home islands are both economic and environmental. Nature is demanding upon those of us who live on the Pacific Islands, small islands. But we have the choice to leave our islands or to stay and work with others to make life better here at home. Those of us who decide to stay must work together. These issues are too large to be solved by individuals. I guess we must join hands with our brothers and sisters in the Pacific, and we must continue to rely on the blessings and support of our donor countries. However, we cannot remain dependent on the cash flow of others. When our road project in Chuuk was stalled and the contractor fired, we realized that a big part of our economy relied on the spending of those road workers. We cannot afford to have no major project under construction. How could our economy have become so dependent on the flow of money from outside our boundaries? The comeback ends in 10 years. If we are not able to survive on our own efforts by then, Chuuk will collapse. I suspect we are not alone in our dependence on foreign subsidies. I could speak about this without end, and we might be sitting here until night falls, but I am trying to make a point. Although we may face individual challenges that are different in scope and magnitude from what others face, we are all well endowed and enriched by our own Pacific heritage. We are all blessed by the Almighty who sees us as a family. Therefore, we should all foster mutual respect among us as Pacific Island brothers and sisters and continue to support each other. I want to end with a word of encouragement to my Chuukese people residing on this island of Guam. Please do your best in everything you do. Go to school if you are still able. If not, then get a job, work hard, and be a law-abiding resident here. We all know that life has not been easy for you, but you must fit into the society here in which you live, for your own benefit and for the good of other people around you. Marius and I are glad and honored to present in advance our only gift to you, APIL. Well, I'm sorry, the farewell reception should have been the proper venue, but as I've been doing, we are excited to offer our APL dues in the same amount of $10,000. And I will also convey again in advance our governor's greetings to all, and especially to our hardworking executive director of the Pacific Island Development Bank. I want you to know that Chuuk is prepared to send a little additional contribution to our bank in the amount of $50,000, very less, not much. Aaron and the board rest assured that the check is forthcoming. We wanted to bring it, but the governor himself wanted to personally hand it to Aaron Balik. This is evidence of Chuuk's renewed commitment to retire its share of the delinquency to our Pacific Island Development Bank. Again, our greetings to all of the Chuukese living here in Guam. I don't want to talk anymore in Chuukese, so you don't think we're campaigning here too early. But anyway, thank you, Madam President, honorable delegates, Guam senators, officials, and the government of Guam, the people of Guam, ladies and gentlemen. we thank you for your time here with us, and we are looking forward to working with you over the next 3 days. We hope for a successful conference where we can learn how to solve our problems by learning from each other. Sijus Mase, Ali, Mokitin, Aloha, Talova, Marie Yogwe, Kaselelia, Sleeping Lady, no, Tuwo, and Rananim, to all of you. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much. For the sake of Chuk,
Thank you.
I'd like to recognize FSM State of Kashai.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to start by joining the former speakers in expressing our respects to the leadership of Guam, Governor Galvo, presiding and officers and honorable members of the Guam Legislature, local government mayors, other dignitaries in Guam, and of course the good people of Guam. Line to each and every one of you. I would also take this time to acknowledge the presence of our presiding officers and say Lenwo or greetings from the island of the Sleeping Lady to my fellow board of directors. It certainly is good to be back and to see familiar faces. And of course, greetings to the two new members from the Republic of Palau, and of course, Speaker Palauan's proxy. I see only Mr. Chris Sampson here, but I thought it'd be good to recognize the representatives of all our partner organizations. I'd like to call them our sister organizations. We still continue to look forward to working with you in order to provide better services to our people. Please allow me to introduce our delegation. Of course, since I see some new faces. My name is Robert Taulang. I'm the floor leader of the State Legislature. To my left is Senator Talin Sabalik. It is also an honor for me to introduce to you our Vice Speaker Palikin Shru behind me, and Senator Bob Skilling. Our Honorable Vice Speaker is here to make sure that Senator Balik here spend all his travel money here in Guam before we leave. Again, it is indeed a pleasure to be back here again in Guam, to meet, especially to be back together with the APIL family. Before I go on, I hope it is appropriate for me to take this opportunity also to convey our sympathies and our concern to the good people of the app and of course Palau, especially to those people whose lives and well-being were affected by the recent typhoon. And in addition to that, I would also like to express our concern to our people of the app for the recent health problem that led to the change in venue of this 54th ABL Board of Directors meeting. And on that same note, I would like to acknowledge the work of our officers and of course Walton and the Secretariat office for responding quickly to make that change in venue realized at this time. Again, we pray and wish for a speedy recovery to our people in Yap and the Republic of Palau. Since the last general General Assembly in Honolulu, which I missed. Some areas, there have been some developments in the areas of, I think, areas of interest, I think, for ABIL. Unlike the previous reports, we're providing a read-in country report for Kushai, and we will make sure that our country report will be given to Walton or the Secretary Office to make sure they're distributed later on today to all those who have an interest in taking a look at it. Of course, this country report actually my reason for not presenting it now is it's kind of a bit lengthy, and it has some details in it. So in the interest of time, I thought it would just provide an electronic copy or hard copy to the members later on, as I said, later on today. But for now, I would like to just highlight a few things that is included in our report. And as I said, that these were developments that occurred since the last General Assembly in Hawaii. The report will, of course, would share with you in more details the development in the areas of alternate energy, environment, and of course the major issues in the area of health prevention, especially NCDs, and I would like to take this time to recognize Senator Bob Skilling back there. He's a very active member in the areas of NCD prevention or initiatives in the state of Kauai. So should you have the time to take a look at our country report and need further clarification on it, I think it's a good opportunity that Senator Skilling will be here with us for the next couple of days. Just a couple more things. For this fiscal year 2014, this last October, the state of Kauai started implementation of what we call the LTFF, Long-Term Fiscal Development Framework. This particular instrument lays out expenditure reduction for Kauai for the next 10 years for the remaining part of the amended compact. And aside from, along with that, recently what we call the Kauai Strategic Development Plan has been put out. This strategic development plan includes all Kauai's aspirations, development aspirations also for the next 10 years, or remaining part of the amended compact. Those were two major issues or instruments that were produced within the last few months, and later the strategic plan would need to have legislative actions, which would very likely take place sometime next week. With respect to NCD initiatives, just 2 days ago, the Kauai Legislature passed first reading of a bill that would prohibit advertisements of cigarettes, tobacco products on the island of Kauai. And I'm positive, and I hope that the final approval of this passage of this bill will occur sometime next week when we go back to our special session. Again, our country report shall elaborate a bit more on this and some other issues. And once again, I would like to invite you to take a peek at it, should you have the time. And should you have any questions, we will be very happy to make clarification as you need. Before I stop, Madam President, we came with a partial payment of our annual fee. Of course, we want it to be 100% payment, but like Chug and some of the others, we were only able to come up with a half of that annual amount. Again, thank you for this opportunity, and as mentioned by Chuk, we look forward to working and learning more from our presenters, our partner organizations, and of course working with our VELA directors in making sure that we make decisions, we learn from each other and make decisions that will be positive and for the benefit of our people. Thank you very much. Arigato, kula malalap.
Thank you very much from the state of Kasrai, FSM state of Pohnpei. You're recognized.
Thank you, Speaker Wonpat and Kasilelia Manku. President Wonpat, Vice President KD, Secretary William, Treasurer Scalliam, Honorable Board members, ladies and gentlemen. Kasilelia, on behalf of the members of Pohnpei Legislature, I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce the members of our delegation from Pohnpei. Let me start by introducing the Vice Speaker of the Pohnpei Legislature, who is also the Treasurer of the APILs, Vice Speaker Scalliam. On my right is Senator Edgar Liganet, colleague in the as a board member. We have our Secretariat, Sel Hadley, and also just came in is our LC, Thomas Beckman. Pohnpei delegation would like to thank the members and staff of the Guam Legislature for all the hard work you have put into making this board meeting a reality, especially since you were given such short-term notice. For those of you from YAP, our hearts and prayers go out to you, to your people, in the hopes that the sickness that has come upon your islands will soon be overcome. For those of you in the Palawan delegation, our hearts and prayers also go out to your people who have suffered so severely from this super typhoon that brought devastation to your island. My fellow delegates, though we have often joined together on Guam for General Assemblies, it has been over 10 years since we last convened a Board of Directors meeting here at Guam Legislature. Much has changed over the last decade, both to the islands of Guam and to our own Association of Pacific Island Legislatures. So are we reacting to these changes? During the last board meeting that was held on our island of Pohnpei, our new President Judith Wonpat reminded us all of the many accomplishments of our past, but then she went on to lay down a very challenging and ambitious course to transport our organization into the future. We would launch our voyage into the future on the principles of universal health care for our citizens, and we would sail toward a destination of economic prosperity for our island communities. But all times, President Wonpat went on to emphasize we would conduct our voyage with an abiding commitment to safeguarding the human rights of each and every one of the passengers and crew of our vessels of discovery. That is to say, the welfare of all our people. The image of traditional sailing canoe island emblazoned on the top of every resolutions and documents produced by the APIL. Earlier this year, the state of Chuuk embarked upon a historic voyage with the traditional hog-trigger canoe that was navigated all the way from Chuuk to Guam without the help of any modern navigation instruments. I've been told that hundreds of well-wishers lined the shores of Guam to welcome the sailors, but the arrival of Chuuk's crew was delayed by a couple of hours due to falling winds. The hog-trigger canoe finally did land on the beaches of Guam just after sunset to the cheers of everybody present. Madam President, as we in the ABIL board aboard our own canoe here in Guam and set out on our own sailing adventures across the seas of the blue continent, the pessimist in all of us will complain about the force of the wind or the lack of it, and then do nothing about it. The optimist in each of us will always expect the wind to blow in the right direction, and will just sit in the bottom of the canoe hoping that the wind will do the rest. But the realist, which lies deep within each and every one of us, of our souls, will quickly but firmly trim in the sails on our ABL flagship and head for the shores of the Promised Land. Madam President, all of us here today are realists at heart, and we really need to get going if we are to truly reach that distance of our dreams. Thank you, and I'd like to yield the floor to my colleague for the presentation of our country report and other Christmas gifts. Thank you.
Madam President, fellow directors, thank you, Director Philip. I also like this time I think it's also appropriate also at this time for us, the delegation of Pohnpei, to also extend to our citizens of Pohnpei who are today residing in your beautiful island of Guam. Our greeting of Kaselelia and Christmas to all of you, citizens of Pohnpei who are here. Madam President, as you know, today is probably appropriate day for we are about to enter into a new year. And as you recall, Madam President, fellow directors, when we had that Board of Directors meeting in Pohnpei, we introduced a resolution whereby requiring your office to issue an annual report, and also requiring at the Board of Directors meeting, every Board of Directors meeting, that each delegation or directors should present a written report to this August body. And therefore, my colleague has asked that I present to you our country report. But before I do that, Madam President, I'd like to highlight some of the issues and some accomplishments that we have addressed during the past few months or during the past year, this year. Most importantly, if I don't want to forget something that is important to you, especially President and officials, like my delegates has mentioned. The Christmas gift is wrapped in the envelope, ready to be delivered to you right now, in the amount of $10,000. May I ask the Secretary to, Selbili, to, please. With that, Madam President, fellow directors, we are, as you know, we introduced that resolution in Pohnpei to making sure that we all know where we're heading, where we started, and where we are heading, and where we are today. So as part of that resolution, as a result of that resolution, we are expecting that all the jurisdictions present a written report to the President be presented today. So we are also tempted to also introduce a resolution to expand that resolution that we adopted in Pohnpei to making sure that the affiliates or our sister organization is also accommodated in our annual reports by the Office of President. With that, Madam President, without further ado, I'd like to also at this time highlight, like I have said, some of the issues that we have addressed during the past months. Number one, I'd like to say that, of course, Pohnpei is hooked up with the fiber optic, and the service of the internet is not extended to where we expected to reach all the corners of the community in Pohnpei. So as of now, I'd like to mention that our national government presently is addressing the issue of liberalizing the telecommunication business in the FSM. So hopefully within a few months we'll be able to tell you whether that attempt is successful or not. Number two, I'd like also to to mention that human trafficking is also being addressed in APIL. So we'd like to mention that our FSM government has already have a law that is already in place to address that issue. And in Pohnpei, in our records in Pohnpei now, Pohnpei State Legislature, we have also a same sort of similar law that to address human trafficking, and it's more comprehensive than the one that FSM has passed. With that, number three, Madam President, fellow directors, I also like to mention that we're still having problem with our power utility in our place. So we were just recently passed a law to outsource our energy and to find ways for our utility company to find ways to do away with alternative energy. So that law is already in place and is a great improvement, development on our part. A resolution also, as you recall, the past meeting we had in General Assembly we had in Hawaii. Pohnpei has endorsed, has a position, have adopted the idea of regional insurance, with the fact that the NCD is really a challenge for us. I'd like to mention that it's very alarming to say that us in Pohnpei State, 60% of our fund that is allocated for the health is to address the NCD. And with that idea of regionalize the insurance within the region, Pohnpei State is very supportive of that. And I am assuming that at this Board of Directors meeting, we will be able to have some information in terms of where we are after we had that adopted the resolution for a feasibility study in Hawaii. And with that, couple of things I also like to mention in the interests of environment. I'd like to also mention that a couple years ago we passed a law to prohibit the usage of shopping plastic bag, and that is really giving our citizens a headache, because it's almost like you're giving your kids shoes with different sizes, and it's really hard for them to live without the plastic bag. So anyway, so we'll find ways how to address that down the road. And as you all know, I think you recall when we had that meeting in Hawaii, we have a law in place already. It's illegal for any commercial activities in Pohnpei to harvest shark. So we are on records of one of the jurisdictions in the Pacific to come up with that. And lastly, but not the least, I conclude by saying I join my colleagues in welcoming all of you to the beautiful island of Guam, and have a day kasalilia to all, and we look forward to be working closely with you on issues that are common to all of us. And with that, thank you very much, Madam President and fellow directors.
Thank you very much. From the state of Pohnpei, recognize FSM State of Yap.
Good morning. Good morning. Madam President, Judith Wompat, presiding officers, distinguished regional colleagues and friends, it is with great pleasure to see you again. Speaker Joe Guerrero, long time, congratulations on your speakership. Senator Pete Reyes, Senator Nelson Pellet, Senator Glenn Wakai, Senator Edgar Lekinet, and Senator Rory Rospero, Vice Speaker Fernando Escal, and also to meet new friends and colleagues of the regional legislative body of APIL on its 54th Board of Directors meeting. American Samoa, Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, FSM State of Truk, FSM State of Kosrae, State of Pohnpei, Island of Guam, Republic of Kiribati, Republic of Marshall Islands, Republic of Nauru, Republic of Palau, State of Hawaii. On behalf of the 8th Yap State Legislature, Chairman Jesse Rugalmer and I bring you oceans of greetings, not chikungunya, from your sister state of Yap. Unfortunately, Speaker of the 8th Yap State Legislature is in the Philippines and won't be able to make it. So I've been sending his proxy pending your approval. We bring with us but hopes in several areas of concern. These areas include, not limited to, communications, environment, climate change, health, energy, law enforcement, last but not least, government, private alliance, and cooperation as a way forward toward contemporary economic development within the Blue Continent. It is our hope that the efforts of APIL and our sphere continue pushing these and other important fronts to complete and successful prevalence within the Blue Nation, the Pacific arena. With your permission, my colleague can speak more specifically to some of these areas, including some of the minimal efforts your sister state of Yap is involved in supporting the mentioned areas above. Thank you, Chairman Jesse Rugalmer, and thank you all very much.
Thank you, Chairman Cheng. Madam President, colleagues, presiding officers. Madam President, as is Christmas, I think the first thing, as alluded to by my colleague from Pohnpei, is to wish each other a Merry Christmas, and especially to you, Madam President, and all the delegates who have traveled far to here to participate in our meeting, and most especially as well to all of our people from Yap who resides in Guam, in this beautiful island. And we thank you for allowing us to enjoy the beauty of this island. Mr. President, as Senator Chairman Cheng alluded to, we bring greetings from Yap, from the 8th Legislature, to you and to the Board of Directors. And we look at the issues before us as we convene the 54th Board of Directors after the 32nd General Assembly in Hawaii to be regional health insurance, improve telecommunication services, improve transportation, greater development of alternate energy, and many others, including, as was alluded to by several of our colleagues, human trafficking. Also, as alluded to, Speaker Henry Flynn is not with us, but he conveyed to us to convey to you, Madam President, his hope that our meeting be successful and that we fashioned doable recommendations to the 33rd General Assembly. And as Senator Chang pointed out, we have the issues of communication, environment, climate change, health, and so forth. And I just want to point out that the legislature has taken position on several of these issues, and prominently the telecommunication, which, as we speak, is there's a bill in the 18th Congress to consider liberalization of the telecommunication services, because currently such services is under monopoly in the FSM, and we're told directly by the World Bank, which is providing perhaps a chance in a lifetime over $20 million grant for the connectivity of the upstate with Palau to Guam. And so we await, cross our fingers, and await their decision. Right now they're having a session. And our position on telecommunications started way back since 2023, when the legislature passed a resolution asking the governor to do his best to negotiate the best terms for the connectivity of Yap State with a project between Yap and Palau. And then we passed a resolution expressing to the Congress our the legislature's support for the early liberalization of the telecommunication services. Then after that, after a meeting that was held in Palau, we passed also a resolution expressing gratitude to the Republic of Palau for their decision to make the project more realizable by their decision to fund half of it. And for climate change, back in 2011, we passed a resolution asking the governor to develop and issue a upstate climate change policy and plan. And somebody was mentioning about NCD. We also passed a bill which we overrode the governor and became the most comprehensive prohibition on tobacco smoking in all government buildings and in all public places. You have to be 50 feet from the entrance of a building, government building, before you can smoke. Several others was mentioned about the shark. Yes, we have a law now, 8-44, for the protection of sharks and whales and dolphins. We have one also on the Monterey. As for climate environment, we've passed recently one that within 6 months, the distribution and sale of plastics for groceries will be prohibited. And for renewable energy, we have now, I don't know when it's going to take effect, but we have a Asian Development Bank loan of 9.4 million to finance Yap State renewable energy. And that was also the FSM Congress agreed to guarantee that. For human trafficking, we have a law now. It took a while, but we've enacted a law that is criminalizing this particular act in the state of Yap. That is, I don't know whether it's more prohibitive than the FSM law, but it is one that addresses that concern as well as our particular customs and traditions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much from the state of Yap. The chair recognizes the Republic of Kiribati.
Madam President, fellow board directors, friends of APIL, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not very emoted. Madam President, allow me, through your good self, to sincerely thank the people and government of Guam for the warm welcome and hospitality extended to our delegation from Kiribati since our arrival. I also like to join the other parties in thanking APIL Secretariat for their excellent facilitation of the meeting. Madam President, the purpose of our board meeting here, among other things, is to continue our endeavor to identify and understand our common problems and challenges. It is also a time to share our views on how APIL should operate meaningfully in providing options and answers that could be used by our respective governments to address their common challenges. In light of this understanding, I now wish to share with you what many studies have concluded to be the main roots of our various problems we face in Kiribati, and with which most people in Kiribati tend to agree. I will also point out what we, out of desperation, presume to be one of the solutions. However, this is a completely new area to us on which we need more clarification and guidance. I have no doubt APIL would be able to assist us in getting some expert views to enlighten us on this subject matter. Madam President, as is known, Kiribati is one of the world's poorest countries. It has few natural resources. Commercially viable phosphate deposits on Panapa were exhausted at the time of independence. Copra and fish now represent the bulk of production and exports. Kiribati is considered one of the least developed countries in the world. Its per capita gross national product of $1,420 in 2010 confirms this statement. The economy now depends on revenue from fishing licenses and foreign assistance to finance its imports and development budget. This poverty status of Kiribati comes about basically because Kiribati consumes more goods than it produces and imports more than it exports, paying for the difference with foreign exchange income. More than half of Kiribati's national income comes from abroad, mainly through fishing license fees, remittances, foreign aid, and the revenue from the REF, or Revenue Equalization Reserve Fund. This makes Kiribati highly vulnerable to rising oil and food prices, loss of fisheries revenues, and the appreciation of the Australian dollar. The Asian Development Bank, in its assessment, highlighted that the major constraints to Kiribati's potential growth include 1, land area, 2, geographic dispersion across 5,000 kilometers of ocean, 3, remoteness from major markets, which associated high external transport costs, 4, high vulnerability to natural forces, including climate change and sea level rise, 5, scarce natural resources. All these impediments to economic development are, of course, imposed on Kiribati by nature, and there is not much that can be done about that. This is what people believe to be the main cause of Kiribati's various problems. It's also political, environmental, economic, and of course, communication problems. The makeup of Kiribati Islands render its very little capacity to buy its food and develop its economy within its own means. If people were to look at these impediments negatively and call it a curse, then those people would only allow themselves to be trapped under the power of hopelessness. And they would just sit down and wait for the right opportunity to escape. However, Kiribati must take this as a challenge that should motivate it to work even harder to find answers and solutions so that it can pull its people out from the problems named above and lead them to full prosperity if that end could possibly be achieved. Some people believe that the ADB's assessment mentioned above, that Kiribati has scarce natural resources, is not in itself definitive. Of course, there is surely no land-based resources to be found in Kiribati, as the islands are made from coral lime atolls. But these islands, when put together, only take up 810 square kilometers out of the total land and sea combined area of Kiribati, which is 3.5 million square kilometers. Kiribati, therefore, has more sea than land. The hope of Kiribati now lies in its vast ocean. It has always been the home of tuna fishery, which has contributed a lot to the annual budget of the country. Kiribati always wonders what else this vast ocean has in store for it. With accelerating problems that now face Kiribati to almost a very critical point, it is now time to explore options that could provide answers and solutions. Kiribati does not absolutely certain if there are hidden resources down at the ocean floor of its EEZ. And if there are, the big question is how big and how could it be sustainably harvested in an environmentally friendly manner. If it were to be mined, what would be the legal requirements needed to be done first to ensure the royalties really benefit the government and its people, rather than the mining companies? With these unanswered questions, I now call upon the EPIL to assist where possible to consider bringing in experts on deep seabed mining that can enlighten us on these unknown resources within the respective EEZs of APIL member states. With those words, Madam President, I look forward to learning from this meeting. I thank you.
Thank you very much from the Republic of Kiribati. The chair recognizes the Republic of Palau. Oh, I'm sorry. Delegate from YAP. Was there something?
Thank you, Madam President, and my policy to interrupt the statement from our sister republic, but my Christmas statement was not completed.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, we don't want to miss that.
Right. And so to Mr. Walden, our great secretariat, is a Christmas present from the state, 8th legislature of Yap State. 10,000 American dollars, not Chinese.
Thank you very much for your annual dues. We appreciate that. So we will go ahead and proceed then with the Republic of Palau.
Half a day, and good morning, Madam President, officers, and all board members of the APIL. As has been done with my colleague here from YAP, Senator Jesse, we also like to begin with the Christmas greeting and present before moving on. So it also are happy to present the $10,000 check from Republic of Palau to our secretariat here.
Thank you.
I'd like to begin with the introduction of the delegates from Palau were able to come this morning. With me here to my left is a board member of APIL, Delegate Yutaka Gibbons Jr., and also with us from the House of Delegates who was able to accompany us is Delegate Marino Maes, who's sitting here behind us, and also our staff, Tanya Rongulbay. We want to express our gratitude for the Guam Legislature and Madam President for hosting us at this meeting. We also want to express our gratitude for all your thoughts, generosity, and prayers to Palau for the destruction of Typhoon Haiyan. Fortunately, and with the good grace of God, no lives were lost. As also I've been informed that we are live broadcast of our meeting, I want to say Ali and Ngiltu Tau to the people of Palau who are able to tune in and see this broadcast. Also express our most heartfelt gratitude to Governor Calvo and the people of Guam for welcoming and supporting the citizens of Palau who have made Guam their home for many, many years. Palau, like many of us here in the Pacific Islands, depends on the tourism industry to drive its economy. Palau's ability to develop and grow depends on its success in attracting guests to come enjoy the spectacular natural beauty of Palau. As our President, His Excellency Tami Irmansao, put in a recent speech, our economy is our environment, and our environment is our economy. That same could be said for many of us here in the Pacific, and particularly for the nations of Micronesia. However, promoting the tourism industry can be a double-edged sword. While more visitors in general may result in more revenue from tourism and growth in that sector, greater numbers of visitors requires the development of new accommodations and exerts a toll on Palau's environment. More tourists mean more boats out exploring the rock islands and the incredible marine life in our coral reefs. More tourists means more users of our natural resources and the potential for environmental damage and pollution. Palau hopes to grow, but it hopes to grow smartly. Developing the tourism industry should be done carefully and prudently so as to preserve the environment that attracts tourists in the first place and the culture that islanders have valued since before Micronesia became a destination. With these smart growth considerations in mind, promotion of the cruise ship industry presents a potentially worthwhile opportunity for Palau and for all of Micronesia. Tapping into the cruise ship market represents an opportunity for economic growth that, done right, could result in minimal environmental impact. There are two potential cruise ship markets. One market is typified by large cruise ship carrying thousands of passengers. These cruise ships go on cruises of a week or less and tend to promote the cruise itself as the experience, with onboard entertainment, shops, and dining. These ships dock for a short period and flood the area with passengers who may make some small purchases on the island. Another market is presented by smaller cruise ships of a few hundred passengers, or fewer than 100 passengers. These ships tend to take voyages of several weeks or more across an entire region in which Palau serves as one of many stops. On these voyages, the passengers typically arrive in the morning, spend the day on tours of Palau, returning to the ship to sail off nightfall. These adventure ship cruises and the ships not only patronize local tour companies, but they also serve as a promotion for the islands. A visitor intrigued by their one-day visit is likely to return to Palau in the future for a long-term stay. The visitors on these adventure cruises also tend to consist of well-off retirement age individuals who expect a high-end quality experience. For Palau, the adventure cruise market may represent the more realistic and prudent course to promote and develop. Palau does not currently have the infrastructure to host large cruise ships. Moreover, even if a port were built to enable large ships to dock, the benefits to Palau are unclear given the nature of the large cruise ship industry. We note that our neighbors in Micronesia have made strides recently in developing a cruise ship market. Guam already receives thousands of cruise ship passengers each year, including the famous Queen Mary II. The work of the Micronesian Cruise Association, of which the Palau Visitors Association is a member, must be mentioned. The Micronesia Cruise Association's mission is to develop a sustainable emerging cruise ship market in the Micronesian region. Palau hopes to work with all its friends in Micronesia to investigate the possibility of establishing a network of ports that could support a Micronesian cruise ship industry. We are still at the early stages of developing the cruise ship market in Palau. By comparing notes and sharing our successes and challenges, we can hope to learn from each other and promote a cruise industry that grows our tourist economies. To start that conversation, we're at the right place, here. And the input of individuals working within the tourism industry have provided to me during a recent meeting are also very instructive. It's been emphasized at that meeting that a factor in attracting adventure cruises is the relative ease of getting through immigration. And that's being done in Palau. Because the time it takes to disembark is crucial to the quality of the tourism experience of a visitor. Someone who will be on island for 8 hours can't afford to spend 2 hours waiting for processing by immigration and customs authorities. In this regard, Palau stands to make improvements. Therefore, it would be worthwhile for us APIL board members to compare notes on the effects of immigration processing, visa fees, departure fees, park permits, and other fees and permits that APIL member countries impose on their visitors. Palau hopes that together with our neighbors, we can promote Micronesia as a blue continent, a destination for adventure tourists. And now let me mention a bit about Typhoon Haiyan. In the early morning hours of November 7th, Typhoon Haiyan passed by Palau. The center of the storm was less than 10 miles from our northernmost state, Cayenne, and about 70 miles from our largest city, Koror. 12 out of our 16 states saw some damage from the storm. Cayenne saw almost all of its structures destroyed, power and water lost, and all residents had to be evacuated. Significant damage was incurred in other parts of Palau as well, with the cost of damage estimated at about 500 million. To put the scale of this figure in perspective, Palau's most recent national budget was less than 70 million. Palau is fortunate and grateful to have received international assistance to help rebuild after the storm, with Taiwan and Australia already providing funds. However, looking ahead, the storm brings up long-term issues that again must be addressed. Typhoon Haiyan is the second typhoon to strike Palau in as many years. Last December, Typhoon Bofa caused extensive damage in Palau as well, particularly along the eastern coast of its largest island, Babeldaw. Typhoons have historically been a once-in-a-decade event in Palau, so the occurrence of typhoons in consecutive years is concerning to us. Two storms may not conclusively make a trend, but it must be kept in mind that climate change could mean the more frequent occurrence of typhoons in our region. In Palau, it is essential to identify policies and strategies for planning for the impacts of climate change, particularly with regard to land use planning, management, and adaptation and mitigation strategies. Pacific Island nations are particularly prone to the impact of climate change. More than ever then, it is crucial for us to work together to develop strategies for confronting the effects of climate change. And it is essential that we join together to advocate for global strategies to reduce or mitigate global warming trends. I thank you for your attention and look forward to a most productive meeting and the introduction of and adoption of resolutions that would help us as a region. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much from the Republic of Palau. The chair recognizes, well, I guess we won't have one from the Marshals, so the state of Hawaii.
Hafaday and aloha, Madam President and delegates. Good to see so many faces after seeing all of you, or many of you, in Hawaii just a few months ago. I love the islands or the island of Guam. It's where it offered me my first job out of college. Lived here for 2 years. Had the distinct pleasure of spending another 2 years in Saipan. Earlier this year, I got to be the honorary consul for Palau in Hawaii. So my roots in this part of the world are deep and continues to deepen. And since we last saw all of you, or most of you, in Hawaii, Hawaii did the unusual step of going into a special session to take up an issue which was the most controversial in the state of Hawaii since statehood. It was the issue of same-sex marriage. And I'm not going to talk about the pluses and minuses of that issue, but I will tell you that if and when that issue comes to your part of the world, it is a hand grenade. It divided the people of Hawaii pretty much right down the middle, those who were opposed to it, those who wanted to embrace it. Just Monday was the first few couples that were married as same-sex partners in the state of Hawaii. But what that issue did for the people of Hawaii was really got them engaged in government. We had 6,000 people testify for and against that issue. It was a huge turnout for the people of Hawaii. And you know, Hawaii has the lowest voter turnout in the nation. So I was always of the belief that people in Hawaii, they don't really care about their government, and only a select few are willing to engage in the discussions and policies that are created there. But this issue, which we only put to rest just a little over a month ago, this one issue really energized the community. So although it helped divide the community, I guess the good point is that it really got people looking at their government and seeing how they can affect their government. So that's the plus side of that entire effort. I heard it said on a couple of occasions this morning about the need for transparency within our governments. Hawaii this year went under a technology transformation. We have so much information online for the people. Right now, if you were to go to ehawaii.gov, you could find out how many people took out camping permits, how many people have paid their outstanding parking tickets. I mean, how many marriage licenses we issued in the past 2 days. It's everything is online, everything is transparent, and our view is we want people to get out of line and get online for a lot of their government services. But for all of us who are policy creators, that means we have to be sharp. There's no hiding behind beliefs that we can bamboozle the public with generalities of what we believe is happening. The public is going to hold our feet to the fire and say, your figures are wrong. I just looked online and we had these number of transactions happening. So when we talk about transparency, sometimes we think of it as just something nice to tell the public, but the reality is you're going to have to be sharp and be accountable, because the day is coming for all of you. And I heard they talk about more fiber optics and the ability for people to get more information readily available. That means all of us have to start actually walking the walk, not just talking about a better government, but it's coming. It's coming to your doorstep. And Hawaii is kind of at the front edge of that. Also liked the discussion about the cruise industry and how it's providing some really unique economic opportunities for this part of the world. The cruise industry in Hawaii is a very important but mature part of our tourism portfolio. It's been around for about 10 years, and we certainly see the benefits. One thing you might want to keep in mind is Hawaii is going to blaze a new trail next year in this area of space tourism. And it sounds very high, Star Trek-like, and it really is. There are companies out there, Virgin Galactic, Google Galactic, that are creating spaceships to take tourists into space. Hawaii has set the stage for all the licensing with the FAA, all of the infrastructure that's needed to actually launch this program sometime late next year. And what essentially is going to happen is people are going to drop 200 grand. Obviously, this is for the rich folks, right? And not many of us at this table could afford a trip like that. But people out there are willing to pay $200,000 for a 20-minute experience in zero gravity in space. So if you could imagine, it's kind of like when well, actually, it's a kind of a neat aerodynamic contraption that goes into space, flies around in that zero gravity, gives you that zero gravity experience, and it comes back down to Hawaii. And it's a market that we are really banking on to help grow our tourism industry. So as we talk about the development of cruise lines here in this part of the world, I can imagine in a few years Hawaii will figure out the pluses and minuses of space tourism, and that's something that you will probably be embracing in your islands as well. Hawaii has more than 8 million tourists come to our shores each year. We really can't chase 10 million tourists, but we want more and more dollars out of the tourism pie. So we're going after the high-end tourists. We're not going to go after so many, kiddie soccer tournaments and kids that are going to come to Hawaii eat cup of noodle. We want to go after the high-end tourists, and this is a very, very lucrative market for us. The state of Hawaii is doing rather well. Our economy grew by 10% over the past year. So our $11 billion budget turned into a $12 billion budget over the coming fiscal year. So we're trying to do things right. Part of it is that transparency and the investment in technology that I talked about earlier, and part of it is about growing the pie and bringing in new sources of revenue. But it really is a good opportunity for all of us to see. It's not like Hawaii has all the answers. We've made some real mistakes over the decades, but you can learn from our good decisions and some of our bad decisions. And I like the fact that here at APIL we can talk about that. And although Hawaii kind of is the big dog at this table, I mean, we've have a lot to learn, and I really admire the policies that Palau has put in place about the environment is the economy, and the economy is the environment. We sometimes tend to lose that and selling out to development in Hawaii, but that discussion about climate change and other issues affecting all of us is really, really important for us to continue to discuss as we share this blue continent. So, Merry Christmas, Melikiliki Maka to all of you, and it's always a pleasure to reignite our friendships that we've developed over the years. Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, delegates.
Thank you very much from the state of Hawaii. I would like to also recognize the Republic of the Marshall Islands.
Thank you, Madam President. Let me just briefly say my greeting words to our constituents and fellow Marshallese here. Just 30 seconds, if I may. Yahweh gap kamolo lani jigan yanin charang manangan kumuyilo krijmojin malaptada pamuli wami. At this time, as Madam Speaker, President, on behalf of Speaker Capelle, Donald Capelle, bring warm greeting from the Marshall Islands and happy holidays already to all of you. I support and all the statement made earlier, and Marshall Island will just be brief. I'd like to touch a little base on our previous conference in Hawaii, 32nd General Assembly, and also looking forward to our 33rd as we head to Majuro, if everything permits as scheduled. During our 32nd General Assembly in Hawaii, which I like to also reiterate our appreciation to Senator Wakai for hosting us during our stay in Hawaii. It was beautiful. We enjoyed it. It's always beautiful to go to Hawaii and Guam. Our theme at that time was renewable energy and affordable health insurance for our Pacific communities, or the term we now use in this organization, APIL, as the Blue Continent. And in looking forward to also what is ahead of us, as we are proposing in this next General Assembly, which I hope, if all goes well, we will have it in the Marshall Islands in Majuro. But before I get into the new theme, I'd like to also congratulate our very own Speaker and President for her great leadership in guiding us through the theme that we went through. This is one of the very critical need of our lives, especially with our citizens. Each day we face these issues of climate change and need for be innovative with renewable energy, and also with, especially with our health. We know among our Pacific region, NCDs is pretty high, diabetes in particular. Marshall Island is one of the highest, it's got one of the highest rate of diabetes in the region. So I like to congratulate her for bringing us together to Hawaii to address these needs. And I think more so of what we need to focus now on is to look forward and continue to carry out what we've agreed and discussed in Hawaii on this particular issue. So now come to the 33rd, as we look at the theme that is proposed, and I hope that we all will be supporting the theme and approving it as a proposal at this time. Regional transportation and communications. In hearing some of your statement, I think this is very timely and for all of us in this region. And so I look forward to participate in that, and I hope you all will contribute. We look forward to bring in all the experts we possibly can to also assist us with this very important part of our life as we discuss the issues that affect our constituents daily. So I don't want to take any more further time of the executive report from our officers, but I want to congratulate all of you, and also especially our appreciation to our president for last minute change of the venue to host us here in Guam. It's always great to come back to Guam and sometimes transit maybe just one night, but it's always great to be back. So thank you again, and welcome everyone.
Thank you very much from the Republic of the Marshalls. And last, we'd like to recognize the island of Guam.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker and Madam President Wampat, and honorable members of the Association of Pacific Island Legislatures. Buenas Day, and welcome to all APIL Board of Directors, members, staff, and observers to this 54th meeting of the APIL Board of Directors. I would like to recognize our colleague, Senator Chris Duenas, who is also an APIL Board of Director, and Senator Tina Muñoz Barnes, our Legislative Secretary, is here with us today. I saw Senator Frank Uggan Jr. and Senator Tommy Morrison, who joined us at this morning's reception, and we will be joined by our other senatorial colleagues throughout the day, and we will be sure to recognize them as well. And we join you, Madam President, in thanking our APIL Central Secretary at Walden, our Legislature's Executive Director, Mr. Vince Areola, our Chief Financial Officer, Agnes Cruz, our Sergeant at Arms, Thomas Unshug. He was our MC for this morning's activities, and our staff for this great setup and excellent agenda. We also thank those corporate citizens and nonprofit service providers who you've reached out to for their generous donations to cover our APIL activities. We're also happy to present this check, Madam President, to APIL, which takes care of our dues for the coming year. Merry Christmas. But don't cash it yet. Don't open it. Madam President, we have just a few short days to tackle the numerous issues on our agenda, including the recent superstorm Haiyan, which caused severe damage and loss of life in the Philippines and also created havoc for one of our APIL member entity, the island of Cayengao in Palau. Just as in our past experiences, our island communities have come together to assist others whenever they are faced with hardships resulting from natural disasters. We are all assisting our brothers and sisters in the Philippines. Guam has received help from all of you at one point in time, and we will also do the same for our brothers and sisters in Palau. And we in Guam and others throughout our blue continent are fortunate that the superstorm spared us any loss of human life. And we all know from our experiences that we need to be prepared and have proven our willingness to offer our assistance to those in need of help. As Pacific Islanders, we share common bonds, we work with each other, and we give from our heart to help those most in need of assistance. There will be opportunities for each of us to help, even in small ways, and to contribute to those relief efforts over the next few days. Our very own Madam President has ideas on how to mobilize APIL by organizing a collection drive which will be at the ITC and Chief Kapua intersections this Friday, December 6th from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. And Guam Senator Michael Nicholas is also spearheading a donation drive. During the course of our meetings, there will be a number of presentations from various groups and organizations. I hope we all take the opportunity to network with these presenters and strengthen those ties with our friends and neighbors. You may also be interested to know this that this will be the last time that we will meet in this temporary session hall. We are moving forward to restore and reconstruct the historic Guam Legislature building, originally built in 1947, and we expect to begin rehabilitation and reconstruction on that project early next year. I had to make that report, colleagues, because every single day, Madam President asks, what is the status of the legislature building? And so the restoration and expansion of this historic structure next to the Plaza de España, across from the construction site of the Guam Museum, and across from the Cathedral Basilica will be a major landmark in our capital city of Hagåtña when it is completed. More evidence of our island's future is the growing diversity in Guam's economy. Tourism, one of our economic pillars, is attracting a growing number of visitors from Korea, from Russia, and even mainland China. More hotel rooms are being added to our inventory. A cruise ship industry is being discussed, and the gradual buildup of U.S. military forces in Guam and in our region is likely to continue. In fact, readiness exercises are going on right now in the Northern Marianas with soldiers, sailors, and airmen from Guam participating. This past November 12th and 13th, Madam President, CNMI Speaker Joe De Leon Guerrero, CNMI State President, Senate President Ralph Torres, Senator Peter Regis, yourself, Madam Speaker, Senator Duenas, and me, together with all of our legislative colleagues, met in this very session hall and discussed CNMI Guam issues brought on by the federal policy surrounding U.S. CNMI and Guam relations. We will also include this resolution as a report to APIL from the CNMI and Guam. We are certain that if we address these issues successfully, it will also be a benefit to our entire Blue Continent. I have this report that we will work together with CNMI to provide for our update. Thank you again, Madam President, for your leadership in APIL, for promoting the concept of the Blue Continent, access to affordable health care, economic development in each member states, trade and commerce, specifically agricultural produce, as well as issues surrounding the compact impact, climate change, and just to name a few. We look forward to these 4 days of being very productive. By working together, we can accomplish so much more than we could ever hope to achieve on our own. I would now like to recognize Senator Duenas to provide an update on his resolution, which we passed in the last General Assembly in Hawaii. Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, Majority Leader Respicio, and Madam President, distinguished officers and brothers and sisters, and honorable members of your respective legislatures from all over the APIL Pacific. It's an honor to be here this morning once again, and you've all had wonderful comments. I must say I was most attracted to Senator Wakai's comment because I was envisioning as he was speaking about space tourism, and we've all developed the Blue Continent as a concept. It's going to be wonderful if when those high-end rich people come back from space and say, I went to space, and when I returned to Earth, I returned to the Blue Continent. Anyways, since I am normally the troublemaker when it comes to federal issues, I will kind of just make a few comments. Of course, I want to thank you once again. I have met with many of your citizens that reside in Guam, and it was an opportunity to kind of bring about an education. I got an education, they got an education on the whole issue of the compact and the discussion that the compensation to Guam, as well as what was brought up earlier by Chuk and other states, that the compensation to Guam and the compensation to the FSM really is a hallmark in all of our ability to develop, as you said, education, job skills, and opportunities to continue to support our respective economies. So it's been a wonderful reception, and so we hope to continue now that it's passed to work with our Congress delegate and hopefully other members as well to see that through, to see introduction of legislation for compensation when it comes to that issue. I also wanted to bring about the fact that, to me, I think one of the most important things we can do as APIL family is stay united on the compact issues. As was mentioned earlier, the 10 years is going to go by like that. And we will be at the negotiation table, and I hope we will be there together. Because the issue moving forward really, and I'll close by saying this, in a recent conference held by a subcommittee of our Chamber of Commerce known as GUASA, it's a strategic alliance group that really is moving forward to try to make sure that there's a balance with regard to the military relocation and military assets throughout the Pacific. And one of the comments that was made by their leadership and one of the key leaders within the Marine Division was, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. But when the repositioning happened on the federal level, it woke them up when they started looking at their plan within the region and they saw all where their flags were planted. And they said, wait a minute, Australia is not represented, all these other regions are not represented. And what it meant to them was, we should all share in this so that nobody's overburdened, but by the same token, everybody's involved, because they realize that security in this part of the world is really what is going to allow for as Palau said, sustained development, learning from Hawaii, and as we build together with our brothers and sisters of the FSM and their respective locations, security will be our number one ability to market so that we can receive the foreign investment and the other things needed to continue to build our very vital, precious natural resources and keep them vital and natural. So I just wanted to make that report in the effort of saying that I believe the FSM will not be left out and will always be considered as part of the brotherhood when it comes to security for the nation, but that also united together we can get proper compensation, help all of our people, and build our economies for the future. So once again, I looked forward to being in Yap. I'm going to go ahead and take my own side trip later there when I can come and see you, but I'm glad you're all here. In the holiday season, and once again, prayers to Belao, and we look forward to helping you while you're here as well. Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. God bless.
Thank you, all of our member entities, for your country reports. We're now on the officers' report, and I am happy, of course, to report the executive annual report. As I iterated, if you remember the message that I gave during the Pohnpei meeting, that I've set basically 3 goals for myself as president of this organization, which are to find then 1, universal health insurance for the region, for our communities rather throughout Micronesia. 2 was to work closely and to promote and advocate for the Micronesian cruise liners throughout the Blue Continent. And 3 was to set up free trade between our islands. I firmly believe that in order for our people to learn and work effectively, they must be healthy. The General Assembly in Hawaii set the wheels in motion to develop the concept of regional health insurance for our communities throughout Micronesia. I will be attending the Micronesian Chiefs and Executive Summit this Friday to speak to the Micronesian leaders on the issue of regional health insurance. And I look forward to further collaborations with each government entity to make this necessary and important program a reality. I've also been collaborating with the Department of Interior, specifically the Office of Insular Affairs, and Mr. Nick Pula will be arriving in Saipan this Friday specifically to hear about this universal health insurance. I've also been working with insurance companies on island and the regional medical hospital, the new hospital that will be built here in Guam. And this concept has been very interesting, of course, and supportive by all of them. Secondly, I have arranged for a trade mission and was able to take some of our members to Taiwan for an insightful and productive experience in which topics that we discussed in reference to the welfare of the country along with Guam, CNMI, and FSM. Among the many topics discussed were economic development, tourism, healthcare, education, and alternative energy sources were the main focus. In attendance, and who joined me from the Federated State of Micronesia, the state of Pohnpei, Vice Speaker Fernando Scaliam, from the state of Chuuk, Nelson Stephen, from the state of Kashai, Chang William, from CNMI, Speaker Joseph De Leon Guerrero, and Senator Pete Regis, and from Guam, Senator Rory Respicio. The second objective then was to establish then this economic development plan that encourages now free trade between our island nations and communities. There is so much potential in moving product from one island to another now that our shipping lines have been established and filled by reliable freighters. The third is tourism, which is the Micronesian cruise. And what I like to give you will be copies in which we have received from the Micronesian Cruise Association to help the member entities in terms of what their findings are and what their conclusions are. The findings are, and these are regional response that they have encountered, that communication is a big problem. Second, there's the sense of urgency is lacking in some of our islands. Third, our port capacity issues are inconsistent and unavailable. Fourth, there are systemic issues on the responsibility and authority. Who will be in charge? 5, for 2 years, and I won't mention the island, of course, but for 2 years, there's been no reply from some of our member states. There's also excessive fees, no discounts or incentives, especially for large vessels planning a 2-day stop. One example was the Holland, and then what had happened was because of the exorbitant fees, that particular stop was canceled. Government formalities also far from the islands to be visited. So those are some of the concerns that the Micronesian Cruise Association has found as they went to all of the islands to address this Micronesian cruise. Their conclusions are, one is that there is definitely great interest in the region, but we need more regional market awareness. 2, cruise itineraries, planning, and deployment market are driven. 3, deployments. Around the world, there are seasonal repositioning and home porting. There's definitely potential for regional deployment, meaning to fly them into a specific island and then take the cruise liners throughout the islands. They must compete rather for capacity. That means they would like to make sure that then there would be that 100% occupancy in these cruise liners. Japan market is emerging, so the Princess Cruise lines are very aggressive. 4, future contacts and smaller size expeditionary vessels. There's all of these that are definitely interested. We got the Silver Sea from Miami, Z-Gram from Seattle, MSC from Italy, Hapag-Lloyd, Bremen from Germany. And there are others such as Discovery, Orion, and Phoenix, and those have a capacity of about 100 to 750 in their cruise liners. So copies of these will be given to you so you can take back to your islands as well, so we'll be able to assist you as we plan for this Micronesian cruise. The region, of course, is also very seriously considering opening up tourism industries and markets with the cruise liners, and in particular that we want to pilot based on the MILA conference that we have with CNMI in Guam, that Guam and CNMI then the recommendation was to start something as small and closely with our Mariana Islands, and that would be the first phase of a cruise line industry, and eventually they said they would like to expand it to other Micronesian islands. So this is doable as we market then the blue continent to the outside world. Lastly, I want to thank all of you, and thank you from the member entity from Pohnpei for recognizing it and fulfilling, of course, a request that we made, that I had requested basically, is the submittal of our country reports. This announcement I know was made a requirement to see our member entities doing this as a follow-up of what we've done, and more importantly, to report out to our people. The other concern that I have was that, and you notice in your program, right after we've done with our financial report and executive report, is our organization. Where do we go from here? How do we unite our legislators to yield this strength and power that we have through APIL when we go out to the world, whether it's the United States or even to the UN? The other thing also in this that I would like to request as well is that we consider some things. One would be the consideration of a legal counsel, because as a body of legislators, kind of befuddled that we don't have a legal counsel, one legal counsel dedicated to drive and follow through the resolutions that's been endorsed and passed by us. We've been very successful, I know, with the shark legislation, because Pew was able to hire their own legal counsel and was able to push this through. So, and the new thing that you've noticed as well that we put in, I took the liberty to do this. I know I did not discuss this with our other officers, but it was important, and I thank Senator Respicia for making this announcement, because we do have a member entity that went through a disaster, and if you notice in your program as well, is that we've scheduled a time in which we, as member entities, would be able to help one of our sister islands in Palau who have also suffered a disaster as a result of the typhoon. So with that, I will give you a detailed report as well, in which some of our member delegates were taken to Taiwan. It's a very detailed report that in which you will be able to see for yourself and have some suggestions. The way it is written is that it would tell you exactly what the purpose was, the mission was, and then would be a reflection in terms of how this may impact on us, how we can use what we've learned on this trip, that you'll be able to take home to, for consideration as well, if you need to if you have any interest in pursuing the matter of our visit. So with that, I want to thank you very much for allowing myself to make that report, and we'll move on to the APIL financial report. And if I may call upon our treasurer, the Honorable Chang William, to give a closeout report for 2012-2013.
Thank you, Madam President. The financial report has two parts. I am pleased to present the first part, which covers the fiscal year 2012 to 2013. In summary, total income for the state here is $133,000, 595 and 28 cents. Main revenue for the income is membership dues, just for information. The expense total is $107,000, $107,398 and 22 cents. For this period, we had a net income of $26,197.06. The amount will be transferred to the new fiscal year, and this report will be presented by our new treasurer. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Treasurer. Is there a motion then to accept this closeout report?
So moved.
So moved. Is there a second? Any objections to it? Any discussion or questions or anything? None? So ordered. I'd like to ask then our APIL treasurer, Honorable Fernando Scalium, to give us a financial report for 2013-2014 term. Okay.
What we have here is a report that will reflect this term from October 1st, and we'll go on to September 2014. Now,
what we have here is income and expenses. Our total income is 40,000 as of yesterday, 697 and 6 cents. Net total expense is 32,101 and 50 cents. So our net income now, as of yesterday, is $8,595.56. Now, there will be figure changes today from the Christmas presentations that some of you have presented, and that would change the figure as we see it. So if you trust me, by the end of this meeting, I will collect all your monies, all your donations, and then report out our total income and, of course, our total receivables after today's meeting. Maybe by then I would have been sworn into this position. Thank you, Madam President.
For adoption.
And now, may I move that we adopt the short report.
Okay. There's been a motion and it's been seconded. Any
Okay.
discussions? No discussions? Then no objections, so ordered. I would like to ask, if I may, the Vice President Ketty, if you can please take the chair for the next section of the title of APIL organization. Where do we go from here?
How many minutes do you need? Okay, I want to thank our officers for their report from our president's office and our treasurer's office as well. I want to thank them for the thorough reports before the board of directors. At this time on the agenda, we are at V and letter C. That's the APIL organization. And where do we go from here? So let me then give this opportunity for board of directors to participate. But on the onset, if I can give this opportunity first to our president to start the discussion, and then we'll go from here onward. So please, Madam President, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President. And I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank everyone for allowing me to do this. I take, of course, my position as a member of APIL, and even much more seriously, as an officer. And truly, I am, honored, and I've learned a lot. But more importantly is that I've maybe a vision, so to speak, really for this organization. And it wasn't until, of course, we're able to see this every time we meet, and then going home, and then seeing that everything that we've done, we worked so hard to get our resolutions introduced to everyone. We have extensive discussion. We all show support for it. We send them out, and then what happens? To me, it basically dies. And I'm saddened by that, but I'm also happy to see that there are a few that have actually gone through. The very first one that I remember very clearly, to see how this organization, this association can yield so much power, so much influence outside of ourselves. And that was evident when we were in the Marshall Islands, when our former member, Dr. Otto, had introduced a resolution basically to send out a strong message. At that time was to Budweiser in the United States, because they've taken the liberty to declare all of our islands as a butt nation, if you remember that. And how it was done, they'll say butt nation Palau, butt nation Sinamai, butt nation Guam, butt nation Yap, butt nation Pohnpei. And our people, of course, when we see our names, our island listed somewhere, quickly we want to buy it and, share in this quote unquote benefit. And through our resolution, and because of Dr. Oto's participation with PIHOA and WHO, that they're able then to reach out to organizations in the United States, lobbyists basically, who lobbied very hard to get this removed. And we were victorious in that respect, because now you don't see it anymore in our islands. Another success story was the shark sanctuary, the protection of the sharks throughout the islands. And that was not an easy topic to do. And we weren't able to carry that out on our own either, without the assistance, the financial assistance of Pew, where Pew then was able to hire from one of our own member entities an attorney, to have that attorney assist in the research of what every entity's laws look like, what their culture basically is like, and how then can a legislation be drafted to take into consideration the different entities, and to have that as a draft model legislation to then present to every single one of us to take into consideration, and the possibility of introducing it in our own individual houses. And at the same time is to provide, again, to go out to find members in our community to be lobbyists as well, and find the supporters to come to support us as we bring this before our bodies. But those are basically the only two in my duration as a member. And I didn't realize this, like I said, until I actually came into this position and saw with the goals that I've set for myself. I'm not really, didn't ask everyone to set this. I've set this for myself, and I want to be able to carry this on. But my fear is, and I've spoken to two former presidents as well, who've set some goals, and that was it, is that when they were done, then no one picked it up. And, and I'm so happy to hear, of course, our Vice President talk about some of the efforts that we've done and how he would like to see that happen. And that really, I take it to heart, and I want to thank you for saying that, Mr. Vice President, because you will take over the reins, when we're done with this particular session. And I look forward to working with you to help you. So in essence, what I'm saying is that, and I don't know if we realize this, all of us, because I hear this when I speak to people from the United Nations. I hear this when I speak to others from SPC. I hear this from organizations, nonprofit organizations, and they look to this body as being that body that can influence other organizations, other countries out there. But we don't take it beyond where we're at today. And that's why I'm saying, and I don't know, and I'm presenting this for us to consider now at a board meeting, primarily because we can't do this at our General Assembly. And normally this is a time once in a while when we actually go back to our bylaws and look at it and see whether we need to update it, we need to amend it, we need to definitely do something differently. And I don't want to spring this on to all of you, but I've, as the current president, I've seen a lot of things that we need to do, we need to fix, and we need to make it better for all of us. And that's why one of the things, and I'm glad that Senator Wakai mentioned this, is the fact that their state is pushing for transparency and accountability. I know we've done that as well in terms of a lot of reporting, and that's why I instituted that policy that is only my policy as the president is ask everyone is to submit a written report, a country report, because one is that there is accountability and transparency, and it is going to be part of our documents, our journal. It is part of should be in our website, so that when any of your constituents come to you, then they can see what you've done, that you've brought some of the concerns and challenges and successes to our attention, so that then we can, consider what we want to push. One is like Kiribati. They would like for us to consider, sea mining, and none of us ever really thought about it. And that's an excellent idea as well, because with the Marianas Trench, I mean, we know already what the United States have done and how much control we've lost. But the rest of you have some control. But I don't know how to, I mean, but I need to go around and light a fire under each of your seats, to get us to realize this, because we can do so much. And, I'm not going to be here forever. There are always future plans for every one of us that we don't know. But I like for us to set it in stone in our bylaws that, we would follow through. So, and this may not be the time, I don't know, and that's why I bring this up, because I like to ask you, where do we go from here? What do you want? I mean, I can easily just walk away and then step down and, and say, thank you very much for your vote and confidence in me as, to serve as your president for 2 terms. And then after that, just walk away. But I really don't, because I see us doing so much. And, and I say this because when I wrote a letter to the Secretary of Interior to ask for technical and financial assistance for this universal health care, and I wrote to some others, and let me tell you, just that title of president of the Association of Pacific Island Legislatures, she immediately instructed the Office of Insular Affairs to get in touch with me. And now that person is also flying to meet with the Micronesian chiefs and executives. So that's the kind of power we carry, we hold. But we never use it. And I think we can use it to all help each other, just like the Micronesian cruise that we want, the free trade that we want with our island entities. And, and it's hard for one person just to carry this on. I mean, I made that my personal, a goal, 3 goals to really work with. And I like to continue with it. I like for you to continue. I like for all of us to continue with it. But, I can't do it alone. So I look to our member entities, and I don't know when you want to do this, at this time, to maybe even consider looking at our bylaws as well, to try to strengthen some of the articles that we have. Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you. And I'd just like to be put on the record. Good luck on your thought of trying to run away. We won't let you run away. So, but the complacency spirit among our nations is pretty prevalent throughout the region, and we just got to work together on getting things done. I'll give the opportunity now. First, I saw the YAP. Please, delegation, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'd like to align myself with the concept that Madam President brought up, because of course there has been some improvement throughout the lifespan of the APIL. But as we all know, there's always room for improvement in almost everything that we do. And so I think the idea is a good idea to be considered. And just I thought, as she was talking and I was thinking, perhaps we can brainstorm in a setup such as this That's one idea, one approach. The other approach is perhaps maybe the APIL Board of Directors may want to set out a special committee composed of highly appropriate people to try to look into this possibility of avenues for developments to further effectuate the effectiveness of the APIL body and make its report for the general body's consideration. That's one thought that came to mind as the Madam President was talking. So I aligned myself and my train of thought to her concerns, and based on what we've seen in the past, some of the successes and the power that this body carries within the region, I think that's a recognized factors that needs to be tried, that needs to be tailored to some extent. Thank you.
Thank you, Yap. And I know each one of us has the schedule in front of us, and we're up until 12. But if you want to decide to change that to give a little more time for other members, it's up to you. But our schedule is up at 12, which we have about 10 minutes. So let me now give the floor to Pohnpei.
Thank you. With all due respect, I'd like to recognize the concern that is before us. I thank our President for bringing this issue before us this morning. I like to share also what I have experienced since the past years that I've been with APIL. I understand that you all know that I am one of the senior member of the APIL. I'd like to also share the concern that our President has brought to our attention. I agree with that concern, and that is also one of the reasons that I pushed that reporting requirements before, so we'll be able to see where we're heading, what we have accomplished during our past sessions or meetings. As you all know, Mr. President, the APIL, as I understand, is the only regional policy, the only legislative body in the region. We don't have an implementation or the executive that implement all the policy that we approve. And I think that is one of the lacking elements in terms of, like Madam President said, we have passed a lot of resolutions that are very important to us, to our region. The trade, we talk about free trade, we talk about issues regarding environment, but yet all those resolutions are being filed. No action has been taken. So I think, as we all know, sit here today, we understand that we have a magnificent Chief Executive Summit that's going to be taking place in CNMI. I would like to see that we be able to work together with our magnificent Chief Executive and see how we can collaborate on this issue. Because they have, to my understand, Mr. President, they have their own agenda, that we have our own agenda. With this, there is no link in terms of where, what are, our common interests within the Pacific and how we can together address it at one. I really share that this is the right time in this Board of Directors meeting, this issue. We need to at least have an understanding before we conclude this meeting. This is very, very important, aside from the reports that all the reports that will be presented today. It's a very important documents where we can tell where we're heading. And it's, of course, it's a good report. It's for our constituent to see how far we have, accomplished all the task that is before us. And thank you, Madam President, for that issue. And I'd like for us to really share and come up with something that at least a little bit constructive in terms of us going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ponbe. Let me give this opportunity now to Palau, and then after that, I'll give it back, give it to Chuk, and then to Guam. So, Palau, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity. I thank Madam Speaker Wanpat for bringing up that issue. I'm a new member of APIL, and I've really kind of thought about it, like where do we go from here? What happens to these resolutions that are passed by this body? So I want to thank you for your leadership and for bringing that up so we can actually decide how to proceed from here. And I think the suggestion of looking at our bylaws and also hiring a legal counsel for this body can really assist us in making those resolutions into reality to push them forward. I also really want to take this opportunity to, since we have Palau's honorary counsel, Senator Glenn Mogai here, who talked about the cruises in Hawaii, that we could also learn from their successes and challenges there in promoting this area, our region, as the Blue Continent. So I'm think that this is the appropriate time to consider that, and if there's any way we could maybe include it into our agenda for a more discussion on it.
Thank you, Palau. We have about 3 minutes, but if we should continue for another 5 minutes, maybe we can. But let me give this time to Chuk, and after that I'll give to Guam, and after that I'll give to CNMI.
Thank you, Vice President. Yeah, I joined dear colleagues in the same vein. Thank you, Madam President, for bringing up this issue. I think this opportunity to share a lot of concerns. I apologize for to my colleagues from the FSM states. I don't know about them, but I've been here for 8 years, and I'm seeing a very big cap to represent my people of Chuk without the national government's presence in this body. I think I'm not afraid of the national government to express my concerns. This is a very political body. I mean, thank you, Madam Senator from Pala. We need to be strong. We've been passing resolutions without any action. Where do they fall? On deaf ears and stuff like that. And the resources of APIO too. We need a legal counsel, and the common interest of each entity. We don't have the same interest. That's why we need to divide our resources and the same place. We need to speak the same place. The Pacific region. Having said this, because a lot of political trains are going up back and forth. Chuk State has its own political commission, political status commission right now. And I think we need to express ourselves honestly, open, so with this, I think I need the national government here, this body. It's like developing forces not on the same developing level. Riderless wagon here, forming, yeah. So with that, I thank you, Madam President, for the nomination. Thank you.
Thank you, State of Chuk. At this time, let me give it to Guam, please. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President. I would be very brief, only to lend my support to the things that President Wampat brought to our attention. You know, I served with Speaker Wampat for about 10 years now, and I know her to be a taskmaster. So no matter what we believe we were able to accomplish, she continues to raise the bar, and rightfully so. That's the kind of leadership I think each of us bring to this organization. I've also been in APIL probably over the last 8 or 9 years, and what I saw my role to be to represent Guam in this international forum is to get APIL to pass a resolution, and the mere fact of that resolution being passed, it would be then my responsibility to network with whoever I need to network, take that resolution, lean heavily on the support of the Association of Pacific Island Legislatures, and start networking to get those projects done. In my first term with APIL, when I first became a member of the Guam legislature 12 years ago, our good friend Senator Scallion helped me pass a resolution that would create a regional recycling program. We're seeing the efforts of that happening, where you have a barge go island to island and pick up all these recyclable materials. I want to report that we also were very instrumental in supporting the Micronesian Center for Sustainable Futures, which as a result got the University of Guam and the Guam Community College to reach out to members of the Micronesia workforce to improve that workforce development, to take advantage of any regional opportunities. I can recall us doing as a body supporting a Judah Foundation, which was born out of APIL, as well as the Reach Out program that our good friend Senator Wakai is involved in. And most recently, we're able to bring back the MISN, the Micronesia Youth Services Network. And I want us to reflect on those kinds of successes, because I don't want any of our constituents, maybe from Guam or throughout the region, to say, what are you guys doing if you're meeting and you believe that you're not getting anything done as a result of your meetings? I don't want Speaker Wampat's comments to be misconstrued or misunderstood, only to be supported, that we have to grow. And when we grow, we have growing pains, right, Mr. President? And I want to thank Madam President for trying to find a way of having her kind of leadership extend beyond her term here as president. I think we ought to recognize her for that kind of leadership. And I support the idea of having legal counsel to support the Secretariat and all of our other offices. And we just have to decide how much more are we willing to give from our annual dues, and how much more our own governments will allow us to give from our annual dues. And so I know we're up against the lunch hour and we can discuss this a little bit further, but I certainly want to say how proud I am to have been a member of APIL, and how I appreciate APIL supporting those initiatives which Guam has brought to the table. And once those initiatives are formally adopted, then Guam has used that to the advantage of getting our issues going forward. As Speaker Wampat pointed out, we're a very reputable international organization, and when you bring to these areas the support of APIL, they really give us a little bit more time, a little bit more attention, and it helps drive our issues home, to support not only ourselves but to support us as APIL. And so we'll talk a little bit more to see how we can solidify the challenge that President Wampat has brought to our attention. Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. At this time, and I'll give 2 minutes for, if possible, or maximum of 3 minutes to Saipan, and then I'll let Speaker Wampat wrap up this discussion. But if there's need to discuss further, we'll see after lunch. But let me give this opportunity to do Saipan first.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Madam President, as well. And before I start, I also want to just take this time to extend Feliz Pascua to people of the Sinamay living on Guam, and also ask that you do your best to be productive citizens here on Guam. With that, Madam Speaker, I want to share my sentiment that I totally agree with the statements made by the gentleman from Guam, Senator Rospicio. You know, oftentimes resolution in nature is a statement of intent or a statement of support with really not as much, does not have the full effect of law. And we are kind of restrained in that, in that effect. However, I do agree and have seen that resolutions coming from this body has had meaningful and far-reaching effects over the years. And several examples of that was at one time when the CNMI and American Samoa were experiencing There was a legislation in U.S. Congress to extend minimum wage control. Through this body, we offered a resolution asking them to delay the implementation, and that did have a profound effect. It was delayed for at least for a while. And there are other resolutions that, although it's a statement by all of this body, can be carried further, such as the shark fin resolution. Although it was just a resolution, individual member entities then took it upon themselves to pass legislation in their respective islands. Again, that has, and to this day, is one of the more, we are the leaders in the environmental world right now with that issue. Palau once introduced a resolution supporting the declaration of NCDs in our region. Again, although it was just a resolution, many of our entities then went back and introduced legislation to further try to control and regulate the impacts of NCDs on their islands. And so, and I can go on, but I guess my message here is that let us not take for granted that just resolutions in itself cannot be or is useless. In the CNMI, before I say that, let me just say that this region, I mean, APIL has an excellent role in that it promotes regional cooperation. It's an opportunity to learn from each other, which we do. We look at our big brother from the state of Hawaii, and also from each other. State of Hawaii can learn from the smaller islands, so that's a great opportunity in itself. What may have been important 20 years ago when this organization started may not be important now. It's very dynamic. Times are changing, and priorities also need to be reassessed. And with that, in the coming future, the CNMI is currently dealing with the possibility of the U.S. military leasing one of our most beautiful islands in the Northern Marianas Chain to bomb. And right now, we are at a crossroads where we need to decide what we're going to do, whether we are going to allow that to happen, and if whatever direction we go, I am planning to bring this forward, this matter to the attention of this body and to get your support. So our voice does have strong meaning, and it will strengthen our position during this time when we are negotiating with the military. So I just want to again remind the members, and I also, lastly, Mr. President, want to say that there are still greater opportunities even with the partners that we currently have. PIDB is a child of APIL. PIDB continues to evolve in their mission, and I think we, as the parent agency, should also support our partners here. PIDB will be looking to improve or increase their capitalization, which can go towards loans for infrastructure for various entities. And as some mentioned, there are possibilities out there, whether it be communications or whatnot, fiber optics. Funding is always an issue, and we have an opportunity to collaborate with organizations like PIDB. I think that should be one of our, perhaps, food for thought, is to look at our partners and how we can further refine our relationships and benefit from our relationships with our partners. So I'll talk later. I know we're short for time. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, CNMI. At this time, I will give back the opportunity to our president to say the last remark, and then we'll go to lunch. And I believe Matson is hosting our lunch here in the legislature, perhaps in the room back there. And then we'll resume on time at 1:20, and then President will come back and preside at that time. So let me give you back the opportunity, Madam President.
I appreciate, of course, all the comments that are said, and I'd just like to reiterate some other things and even suggest that maybe when we come back this afternoon, depending on the number of resolutions that we have, that we maybe have the opportunity to continue this discussion. Some of the examples, of course, that some of us had mentioned is that, yes, we pass resolutions and it is MCAS who can implement those. That was the reason why I had introduced that resolution, requesting that we report to MCAS, because what I found in looking at their agenda is that they're moving this way, and so are we. We're parallel to them, but we're both talking about the same things, but not meeting in the middle. So at Marshall Islands, again, was the first time I've actually reported, and since then, they've welcomed the idea of us reporting and putting us on their schedule, which is one accomplishment of our resolution. The other is when we talk about these resolutions, as some of the suggestions anyway, and I'd like everyone to think about this during lunch, so this is food for thought, not for your stomach now, but for your thoughts, is that the follow-up of these resolutions, that it is, yes, the responsibility of the member entity, of course, introducing the resolution, but more importantly, maybe in collaboration with the chair of that particular committee to work closely with them, and of course the Secretariat, to make sure that this actually has happened and that we have not forgotten this, and to be able to continue to take it. I know the concern is, and many times we've discussed this as well, that's why I'm saying in our bylaws that when we talk about the national government to be part of this, but this is another thought, is that maybe they too can be invited as an observer, but not as a full voting participant of this association. So those are just some of the things that I'd like for us to consider maybe this afternoon. And I've written some notes in terms of which sections of what articles in our bylaws that I'd like for us to consider for this afternoon. And if I may make that motion then that this afternoon when we come back after lunch is to make some time either before or after the resolution and the committees that are meeting to continue this discussion.
Thank you. We will entertain that recommendation after lunch, but just a brief announcement from the Secretary's office. All the written report, if they can be submitted to him, that will be great. So at this time, we'd like to thank Matson for hosting us for lunch, and we will return at 1:30, regardless, 1:20 rather, regardless of our being late to lunch. So have a good lunch.